Welcome to another episode of the Biker PM. I'm your host, Anthony Pavelich. Today we have part 2 with Flamant. Go back and listen to part 1 because you sure don't want to miss any of it. So let's get started. Let's talk about, working with entrepreneurs and how you help them with their marketing. You're creating, you're creating a course for entrepreneurs so they can do it on their own right now. And then you have your part where you're helping entrepreneurs scale up and get a team and do all that. So tell me a little bit about both of those, where you're at with them and what's your plan with them.
So I have a marketing program that's 8 weeks long, and that's in person. It's a mix of online and in person, really. It's I did run this program in person a couple of times last year, and it was a great success. And because when COVID hit and I wasn't able to do networking anymore and people were cutting the budget, and usually marketing is the first budget to be cut when anything happens, the consulting aspect of things became very friction. There was a lot of friction in like finding new clients, having projects cut or having projects delayed. So I had to like get creative, and I was thinking about how great it felt to actually facilitate and guide other entrepreneurs and work with like smaller entrepreneurs that really have that passion and that juice going. So I figured out, why don't I revive that 8 weeks program and make it something that is online and a mix of online and a mix of in person. So at the end of May, I decided to create it. And then Black Lives Matters happened. And I decided to mute myself to do some earn learning and to do some more learning and raise awareness and do the work on myself. So just after deciding to launch that 8 weeks program, I'm like, okay, so I basically have 3 weeks to do it, but 1 week I'm going to mute myself. I did not promote until like from the 1st of June to the 7th of June. I didn't promote it at all. And coming the 8th of June, I just posted and I just started talking about this is going to happen. We're starting June 21st. And so people loved it, and people were like, sign me in. Where can I sign up? And without really promoting it, I had 7 people coming in, and I was scrambling around to like develop the online content so that I could catch up and like actually propose something that was really solid. So I have everything. And for the in-person, that's great. But there was all that pre-work before the in-person session to develop. So the approach that I took with this program is that I wanted it to be really for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. And it's in no way something where in 8 weeks you get something perfect, something urgency-worthy. It's really something to get your hands dirty. So I'm not talking about or teaching about marketing. People come with their project and they get intake forms and they get a lot of pre-work reflection so that when they come in the 2-hour session, we can work on their project for 2 hours. And I'm facilitating and I'm guiding them and I'm deepening the thinking and the reflection so that then they can go back on their own, do the work. And we have an office hour for an hour on the Thursday. So the Tuesdays are the sessions, and the Thursdays we do an open office hour where people who have worked already on their projects, they come with their question and where there is friction so that we can solve everything and they can move on to the next topic for the next week. Because everything is built so that the first week we're talking about the me part. So there's 2 parts to the me. There's the heart and soul of the me project, which is, how do you define success? What is your vision? What is your mission? What are your values? What intentions do you want to set? Can we define some compass question that you can use to make your decisions in your business so that it's aligned not only with what you want to create as a business owners, but really integrate your entrepreneur life within your life. Because it's very difficult. Like, people talk a lot about balance, work-life balance, and anyone who has been trying know that it becomes like that unicorn that you're chasing balance that moves around because you don't know really how to define it, and it changes from 1 week to the next, and it becomes like that big pain, because that frustration, because you can never reach balance.
Yeah,
So
I actually a few months ago or a year ago or so heard a new phrase called work-life harmony, which I really like a lot better than work-life balance because it's really trying to harmonize your work, especially for entrepreneurs. Having a harmony between your work and your home because a lot of us we work from home, so
yeah.
you have to come up with some kind of harmonizing feel about yes, I'm working, but now I'm going to go throw a load of laundry in.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly that. Like, I love the word harmonizing. I never thought about it like that. But integration really spoke to me because that's exactly what you do. Like, you integrate the different part of your life so that it can make something that actually works for you. And that's pretty fantastic. Like, I've had some great feedback about having this holistic approach instead of just like seeing business as an entrepreneurship as like a separate part of the life. So it's interesting. Like, the first week is really interesting in that sense where you really do the heart and soul work so that then you can go to a more practical and more rational and brain, but still keeping in mind what lights you up, what are your passions, and what from yourself do you bring into your business. And you move to the second part of the foundational of the me work, where we go into goal settings and we're talking about how do we accomplish goals so that it doesn't become like those new year's resolution that never gets done.
Yeah.
We work into instead of mapping out, we go into the compass. So instead of being pure project management linear map out with Gantt charts, we go into it with more of a DevOps kind of um, framework where you only plan 1 or 2 steps ahead, really in detail. And based on the feedback and based on what you experience, you continue like building 1 or 2 steps ahead, but you can go in, move in the direction that you set as an intention without being too fixed on the outcome and more focusing on the process. And doing that, you get out of like survival brain and flight or fight, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, because you're so focused and immersed into the process of getting things done that you actually have more chances to attain your goal. So we're doing that on week 2. Then we work on unique value proposition with the lean business Canva, the value proposition map, the client profiles. And we talk a little bit about branding and how to be consistent and how to work with a designer to get your branding, like your visual identity to life, and also the brand personality. And then in week 3, we go into the day part of the work. So there's the me, part 1, part 2, and then the day part is really all about customers, audience segmentation. What are their pain points? What brings them value? Everything around that. So that at the end of week 3, you merge the two together and you get to the we part. So merging the me with the they and creating something where you're not only pushing what you have to say, you're pushing something that people want to hear and want to pull towards them, and they become advocates and buyers and repeat buyers from you. And week 4, we're going into content development. So we have like content metrics, and we go into developing the content for your website, for the different promotional assets. We're talking about blogging, we're talking about social media content planning. So all of this. And week 5, I do an overview of all of the strategies, the tactics, and the tools so that people can pick like a menu in a restaurant and say, okay, for my particular buyers, this is what I'm thinking of picking. And we go back and forth and be like, okay, that seems like a sound mix. And then from week 6 to 8, I customize the learning based on what the group want to apply.
Oh,
So
okay.
this way, at the end of the 8 weeks, everything is set up. They know their KPIs. Everything has been tested. They have the community to brainstorm everything, to get feedback, to interact with each other, to support each other, and to be a stand and a megaphone for each other. So that's a lot of fun. And so it started, today was week 2, actually. So that was a lot of fun to do. And because of the success that it has, I'm trying to develop a self-directed study version of that program. So I'm putting more videos and more how-tos together so that I can have a lower priced version for people who want to study on their own and go through the framework on their own. And I've decided to launch a cohort of this program every month. So the next cohort starts in July for the in-person.
Yeah, and that's good though to having the self-study, because there are a lot of entrepreneurs that aren't ready to leave their full-time job. So this will help them prepare, because and during the days they're going to be busy, and then they can do this at night.
Yeah.
And it will help them prepare for that down the road. And then down the road they may need to jump in on the in-person one, and they'll be a lot more prepared than they may have been without doing this self-study one. Do you feel overwhelmed, overstimulated, and overworked? There's so much that you need to do, but you don't know what the best way to do it is? And you're not sure where all your time goes each week? Jump on over to my website, ParaProConsulting.com. You can download my free PDF, the 5 proven strategies to steal back lost time and money in your business. And while you're there, you can book a free process discovery session, PavProConsulting.com. Move forward with confidence, focus, and productivity.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm doing this, and I still work as a fractional CMO with a couple of companies. So it's really like, think about the head of marketing for a company that you're going to pay probably anywhere close to $120,000 a year to $250,000 a year. And they're going to develop only the strategy, and then they're going to need a team or freelancers to go and execute on that strategy, because they're not going to get their hands dirty. So where I come in is that for a fraction of that cost, you can hire me and I do all of this, and you can actually hire full-time people who are going to execute the work. And I help coaching the marketers, the more junior marketers, so that they can grow into their role. Because lots of the times what I've witnessed is that people, when they get into a company, either it's a tech company and an innovative company, and they get in on a junior role and they grow with the company, but they don't have the guidance, they don't have the framework, they don't have someone who's dedicated to mentoring them and coaching them into going from an operation role of executing the work to a managerial role, which is different set of skills to manage people, to a leadership role where they need to take on inspiring the team and also a little bit of management, but a lot of strategy. And those are very different skills set. And usually people, when they get into the company, they don't have that framework, except in like very big, large corporation. And even in big, large corporation, usually that mentorship and that growing skills like leadership and managerial skills don't really happen. Like, people grow because of seniority and they get promoted. And I can't tell you how many times I found myself in a company where I had VPs who were more comfortable doing proofreading because that's what they knew. And they still like got to those roles and they got stuck and very unhappy in leadership role and not being able to do the leadership, because either they were stuck on the managerial level or they were stuck on the operational level in their head. And they never had that guidance and framework to like grow in their role with the new set of skills. So this is
And a lot of small companies don't have that capability. They don't have that skill set to help mentor and, guide people in a growth way. They hire people and they're going to, they may grow with the company, but they're not going to grow in the skills needed to take that company further.
Yeah. And especially with smaller companies, like usually they can pay someone at a junior level or at a manager level role, but they're expected to like pretty much do the entire work. And that's why we see in the marketing field, the job posting for social media coordinator, you need to be a videographer, you need to be a graphic designer, you need to be a copywriter, you need to know analytics, you need to know all the technology.
You need to be a unicorn.
Well, if you compound, someone actually did compound the different roles. And if we were to pay people for the skills that are required in those jobs, that would be almost $1 million a year.
I find it fascinating sometimes when I've looked at job postings and I've seen people post jobs, and that a lot of time, and they don't necessarily understand what the role is supposed to be. This is what I need, so this is what I'm going to ask for, but they don't understand what that individual role and what the skill set is. So they put all this stuff in there hoping that they're going to get this person that can do everything, and they're never going to get it. And then that job turns over constantly because of people not either, they're not fulfilling the unrealistic expectations, or they get burned out because they're being asked to do so much and they can't focus on what their skill set is.
Yeah, and that's where I come in. Like I come and I do an audit of what are the skills within the company, what do they like, what do they don't like, how do they define success, where do they see themselves in like 6 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and then we'll build around that. And that's what I call marketing operations, where we're really looking at the cost and the spend, and we're defining like what are the priorities and what do you need right now to take you to the next threshold of development. And sometimes that might be a copywriter for technical copywriting because they need to get manuals out there, or maybe they need someone who's more growth and outreach, and then it makes more sense to hire a freelance copywriter to do the technical copywriting because it's only punctual. So that's that's actually fascinating to work in that way, because you really get into it and it goes so much further beyond marketing. It's like almost like business, and sometimes like my role overlaps between mindfulness and mindset coach to coaching and babysitting founders. And there's others that are really purely strategic marketing, others that are more like, okay, let's like weed out and let's do like some brainstorming. Like there's so many different aspects to the fractional CMO, and giving that opportunity, instead of having like reserving that strategic thinking and that marketing operations specialty and expertise to only big company that can afford to have a CMO full-time or a head of marketing full-time, having that fractional service is really interesting because it gives access to a level of expertise and a level of strategy that smaller companies usually don't have because of the price barrier. Like try to imagine you hire someone even on the lower end of the bracket, you pay $120,000 plus the benefits and the taxes and all the other things that you pay when you hire someone, plus the people who are gonna actually implement the work. So maybe 1 or 2 people with a 50K salary, and you end up straight away with a $500,000 just marketing operation budget without having any spent in ads or doing any kind of other work. So when I come in is that for a fraction of that cost and for the price of the 2 people that are actually going to implement plus the salary of another one, you get someone like me on a part-time basis.
Yeah, I find it's nice because you talk about how you end up kind of crossing over to sometimes that mindset coach. It really plays back to what you said earlier, that it's a social science. Marketing is a science, not only with who you're engaging, but with who's doing the work and with the entrepreneur. So it really, evolves well around that idea.
Yeah.
And I like it because it's funny because I do hear a lot of the way you do things are very planned out and structured, and it plays back to that project management kind of framework to where you're working backwards. So we're getting close to time. So I want to ask you, a couple things. What would be if you needed to give a resource to somebody or a tool to somebody that wanted to become an entrepreneur, what would that one resource be that you would think would help any entrepreneur to succeed?
So maybe it's weird and counterproductive, but I would say entrepreneurship is the fast lane on the highway of personal growth. Every single crap, and excuse my French on this one, but every single crap that ever happened to you will come back to bite you in the ass during entrepreneurship. So it's really like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you're going to be rejected so many times, and you're going to be triggered by so many different people in so many different ways on so many different levels that you will want to go into your mama's skirt and cry. This is the reality of entrepreneurship. You get pretty much as much rejection as artists do. So you need to be prepared for that. So what you need as an entrepreneur? Resilience. And you need to treat it as a muscle. You strengthen it, you work it, you push it to its limit, you stretch it, and you work it again, and you start again the next day. Because resilience is what's going to make or break people. And this give us like the statistics on how many companies fail within their first 3 years, which is like a ridiculous percentage.
It's high.
Yeah, I hope it evolved because it was close to 75%,
Yeah.
I think. And what the difference between people who make it through the 3 years mark and people who don't make it is whether or not you can weather the storm. And when you get disappointed or rejected, how do you stand up, and get back on the horse the next day? And don't let the losses and the failures, like having that capacity of taking a failure, transforming it in lesson learned, and then enacting it in lesson lived, and getting back on the horse over and over again, no matter how many times you're being told no. And I would say another thing is like listening to what people actually want, because you can create the best thing. And again, that applies also with marketing. You can be the best copywriter, you can be a whiz with the algorithm for search engine optimization, you can be a whiz with ads. If you don't know who you're talking to and if you don't know what they need, it's just going to fall flat. That's the reality of it. That's
great advice. That's well said. And it is true. Resilience, I have to agree, has been the thing that has probably played one of the most important roles in me continuing. Because there are times when I've had workshops or I've had just webinars and, not a lot of the people have shown up, or, and people, well, doesn't that bother you? No, not really, because I know, I've come to understand that it's going to happen, and it doesn't deter me from moving on and hosting that next workshop, hosting that next webinar, because somebody is going to need it or want it, and it's going to help somebody. So you just keep pushing through, and you need to, and you learn from your past and take those lessons with you forward.
Yeah.
So if people want to find out more about you, how do they get in touch with you and find out more about what your workshops that you're doing and that you're creating, and all your adventures and your curvy road to where you're at?
So the easiest way is usually to reach me through LinkedIn. So if you want to tag me on LinkedIn, people can add me and send me messages. And what I do is that I promote a couple of the things. So whatever is going on, I usually promote it. Right now, I'm on a mission to actually help 10 entrepreneurs every week and to raise money for charity. So I'm donating 2 hours of my time every week on Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern and 3:30 p.m. Eastern. And I open 5 spots per hour for entrepreneurs. So I donate my time. So it's completely free of charge. The only thing that I ask is that if people have the means and the will, they donate to the charity of their choice or to one of the charity that I mentioned. So I promote those weekly on LinkedIn, telling people like, hey, I still have 1 or 2 spots for this Friday, or sign up for the next Fridays, and everything happens through Calendly for the signups. And yeah, that's like, let's get entrepreneurs unstuck and at the same time raise money for charity. So I'm running this until the end of the year at the very least.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. I'll make sure that I will look for those, and I'll also, we're connecting on LinkedIn, so I'll share those as well.
Fantastic.
Those posts, because I think that's great. That's a great cause, and I think it will help a lot, because not everybody, people have different charities, so I think it will be great. Well, thank you again for joining us today, and I look forward to getting this out and actually connecting more with you on LinkedIn and watching what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. That was a really nice conversation. I loved it.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Biker PM. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. And remember, if you're an entrepreneur that wants to be with like-minded individuals and improving their project management skills, join the Biker PM Facebook group. Until next time.